Seems like we have some religious horror here, but let's find out for sure, starting with the IMDb plot. In Italy's happiest village, a haunted teacher discovers dark secret behind weekly gatherings where locals seek healing from a teenage boy's embrace. His quest to save the youth reveals the sinister nature of a community hiding behind joy. All right, interesting, interesting stuff there. Happy Village, haunted teacher. Okay, obviously something weird is going to happen here. All right, so at the top here, a couple of things. First, this was a screener review, so let you guys know that off the top. Try to keep this spoiler free. Obviously, some twists and turns down the road here with this one, so I'll leave that out for you guys. Also, probably a little bit of an unfamiliar title for you guys. This one is a foreign film out of Italy, I believe. And again, sent a screener for this one, and we posted a press release for it. I guess it recently had its premiere. If I remember, I'll try to include that down the bottom so you guys can have some more information about it if you're curious and you want to know more. I'm not sure the details if it's coming our way, this direction or not. I would assume it will, and maybe it'll be in some more film festivals, but those are just assumptions. But we'll see. Anyway, getting into this one, like I said, it's an Italian film, so it's not English. You have to read some subtitles unless you understand Italian. So that makes it sometimes a little harder, but, I still think regardless, sometimes it's hard to judge the acting. I still think the teacher, the guy who played the teacher, did a pretty good job, as well as the boy. Both of them seem to do well in their parts, obviously, when stuff gets crazy later on. But definitely, they have quite a relationship as the film goes on, up and down. So definitely some good stuff there from both of them. As far as the story here, I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on here. But yeah, obviously the teacher has, some things going on in his own life. But eventually, he's here in this village, and, I don't know if it's a new start for him, but just something different. And, he gets into this to school, and he's trying to get himself, familiar with, other teachers and what's going on here. And, but then is soon enough going to see, some strange things happening here, mostly around this boy. And, he kind of takes to the boy, and the boy kind of takes to him. And, the boy is under very strict, control by his father. Wants him to do certain things, and, only allows him around certain people. And obviously he's going to school, gets picked on a little bit, and there's things going on with the boy himself, as far as school-wise. And the teacher you kind of think of him as kind of like a PE teacher. But, he teaches, I guess, a form of karate, something like that. And, eventually the boy kind of, wants to learn that and kind of use that. Obviously not really what his father wants him to do, but, I guess his father, kind of lets go of the leash just a little bit, especially with the teacher. Eventually might not be the best thing. As far as the father's control, but the son is older and kind of wants to sort of do his own thing. At times, he's still doing what the father wants him to do, but trying to do what the teenagers do. You eventually want to break loose and do your own thing. So, so like I said, they're gonna have building of a relationship, but it's not gonna be smooth and everything like that. And eventually the teacher is going to see this ritual where, people from the village come and give a hug to the kid. And, after that, they seem, whatever's bothering them, whatever's on their mind that's kind of holding them back and distressing them and stressing them out, or whatever you want to call it, seems to just kind of go away, and they become a much happier person. So that's why you have a lot of happy people in this village. But it's not something that stays. I guess with every individual, it seems to stay. A different time. So some people can be long. Happy. A really long time, and some people maybe not as long. So obviously, people are going to come back and hug the boy again. And I guess that's kind of how this village has come to kind of function. And obviously, with all that weirdness, there's obviously something else going on. So we'll kind of leave that part out. But yeah, I think, as you're watching this film, and I believe if I saw correctly, it was, yeah, it is 2 hours long. So you're going to feel a little bit of that early on. Because you're going to go through, a lot of relationship building, a lot of, getting the teacher there, learning a little bit about him, sprinkling in the boy, with an introduction there, and kind of building on a lot of that kind of foundation before we really get to the horror of the movie. And I know I tell you guys all the time, sometimes that annoys me. I want to see horror before. But I don't know. I don't know if it was because it was subtitled and whatever, and I had to concentrate on reading that and whatever, that kind of kept my mind on what's going on, or not really feeling the, where's the horror thing going on here. Definitely was, had me curious, and I obviously was not going to be like, hey, let me just turn this off. I don't know what the hell is happening. Because I was very curious to see, what is eventually going to happen here. Why are people hugging the boy, like what is, ultimately going on here. So I definitely wanted to see that. So that kind of hung on me. So, you definitely keep attached to that. But yeah, it is definitely going to be not really in a hurry to get there and show you that. There are going to be some weird things that happen with the boy, when we get maybe midway. And, that again is a kind of a tease to what is going to come. And, I will say early on in the movie, there is, the kind of opening scene, the movie kind of does hook you a little bit, because it gives you something there, again, that's very weird. But it's definitely kind of foreshadowing to what happens later in the film. And is also, part of where the boy comes from. So, at the end of the day, also, you're gonna learn the boy's secret and what the hell is really going on here. There are some twists and turns, like I said, at the end. Let's just say, it will hit you with some horror. It's going to be a little bit freaky, a little bit weird. And, it's kind of, you're going to, especially, if you're reading the subtitles, you're going to want to pay attention to kind of figure out exactly what is happening here. But it's definitely, as a film kind of goes through, and you're kind of like, again, like I said, you're wondering where the horror is in the movie. It's there, it's coming, but you're kind of waiting for it. I didn't know exactly what was coming. Obviously, again, something was happening. But I guess it was definitely a little bit more strange and weird and creepy than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, I think it is certainly well worth the wait. It will give you what you're looking for. You guys know me. I'm looking for blood and guts and that kind of thing. It didn't really give me that. But definitely enough, strangeness and weirdness, and nothing to push me off the boundary, because you guys also know that, sometimes when I think something is a little too weird, that's also kind of like for me. But I was okay with it, where it went and the weirdness of it. And obviously, it's going to drum up some tension and suspense at the end as well, with, all the craziness that's happening. I think another thing the film, does well and wants you to do is kind of really gravitate into these two characters here, between the boy and the teacher. And particularly the boy is to kind of really care for him before you will ultimately find out what is really happening here. So I think that they definitely do a good job of that as well. So Yeah, I definitely, think that overall, yeah, I think this one is worth the 3 pools of blood out of 5. Very, it was well done. Like I said, kind of hard to judge, the total acting, with not knowing everything they said, having to read. But they seemed to do a pretty good job of it. It was well shot and everything like that. Um, Again, it looked like, everybody who was doing the film, had enough experience. And like I said, the story came along really well, and, them taking their time and building to what's happening. And definitely, while you're watching it, again, if you're questioning, where the horror is or when it's going to happen or whatever, I think, they did a good job of giving you enough at the end to kind of make up for maybe not spreading it throughout. Um, so yeah, again, the horror is a lot at the end. So if that's really what you're looking for, you're going to kind of have to wait for it. But there are things to kind of go through, and like I said, it's a lot about building these two characters, especially the boy. Almost a coming of age for him in a weird way. He's going to go through a lot to eventually get to the craziness at the end, and so forth. So, yeah, I think, that's pretty much all I can say about the Holy Boy without, really spoiling anything. And again, I'll try to include the link to the information I have down at the bottom. So hopefully, this gets a release to where some of, us over here get to see this film. And again, if receive any updates, definitely pass that along. So again, 3 pools of blood out of 5 for this one. So with that, horrorsgorereviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews written in video. Certainly tons of video reviews for a while now, so you can just like and subscribe and do everything else that everybody wants to do here on YouTube, and that's fine. If not, I thank you for your time regardless. Twitter, Facebook, information down below. Feel free to reach out there, talk about horror, something you want me to review. And definitely in the comment section, if you have seen it or you do catch it along the lines, feel free to let me know what you think, what you thought. And with that, I'll catch you on the next review, horror fans.